Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to all. My name is Sofea Khadejah, Binti Hasrul Nizal, and I stand here on my 2 feet to give a speech on the topic of liberty is growth. Please allow me to start now. Liberty, when it began to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. This is a famous saying by the first president of the United States of America, George Washington. I feel like that is good position for the key topic of this speech, which is liberty is growth. So, what is liberty? Liberty is the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. May also mean the power or scope to act as one pleases. From the definition of liberty, you can see that it is congruent in the theory of freedom. So, in a simplistic way of thinking, liberty equals to freedom. I feel like people know the word liberty from the popular tourist attraction situated in New York, which is the Statue of Liberty. Well, that would be true, as the statue itself represents the symbol of freedom and justice. The torch held by the statue symbolizes the way to freedom. So, coming back to the main point of the speech, how does liberty cause growth? First and foremost, I will start with the facts of liberty on the growth of an individual. In my opinion, everyone is imprisoned inside their own minds by their own thinking. This chains, as you may call it, creates a sort of limit for yourself, and you will feel as if you'll never be able to overcome them, let alone surpass them, as the aforementioned chains will hold you back for advancing further on. Well, what if I ask you to break yourself free from those limits and challenge your limits? Well, I can guarantee that you will feel as if you have lost the burden when you liberate yourself and be able to achieve great things. In addition to that, you'll also be able to unlock new achievements and discover new skills as well as things about yourself. Also, when you try new things, you are prone to make mistakes, which is not a bad thing. Some people tend to have the misconception that mistakes lead to failure, when in fact it's quite the contrary. Mistakes are also a type of guidance. Mistakes help you grow as a person and can result in self-improvement in yourself. To conclude, liberty is a vital part of growth. As quoted by Herbert Hoover, an American politician, freedom is the open window which pours the sunlight of the human dignity and the human spirit. What comes next is the facts of liberation given by parents to their children. I especially want to direct this topic onto one focal point, which is healthy boundaries between parents and their children. Often, I would come across comments, usually from teenagers, discussing about this specific topic when I randomly browse through the internet. They would often grumble about the behavior of their parents who would barge into their rooms without knocking first, which would usually result in something embarrassing. I believe I can relate to them, as my mother keeps a spare key to my room, which she would use when I get into hot soup, which would be most of the time. Thankfully, the key is gone now. Other comments would lament about their helicopter parents who would supervise them constantly. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like these ways of parenting could cause a strain in the relationship between parents and their children, as the child would feel as if they are being tyrannized and would feel envious of others who have the freedom that they so long for. Eventually, these feelings could bring forth the roots of resentment in their hearts, hence causing them to spite their parents and maybe, in the worst case scenario, even abandoning them altogether. However, I would not fully put the blame on the parents either, as I feel like every parent wants the best for their children, but maybe their methods might have been too extreme. Therefore, I feel like the most optimum way is to have a discussion where both sides settles for a compromise that satisfies everyone. parents also need to come to the realization that their children are getting mature and older day by day, and until at one point they would stop depending on them entirely and set on a journey of life to discover themselves on their own. Even though you'll feel reluctant, but in the end, it's for their own sake. Like a wise man once said, it's not easy letting go of someone you love. It's even harder when you know it's the right thing to do. Another aspect which I would like to discuss is the liberation of ourselves from our past. In my viewpoint, everyone in the world has a couple of incidents which they would like to permanently erase from their minds. I too would find myself lying awake at night when those incidents came to mind. I feel like if those events were to be revealed to the world, then that would be the mother of all nightmares. On a more serious note, some people might have a past trauma about something that had occurred to them during childhood that heavily affects them today. The remnants of the past trauma would constantly haunt them when they are faced with a trigger. To demonstrate this is the post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, faced by soldiers post-war. After seeing their fellow comrades getting fewer in numbers, the scent of gunpowder, smoke, and death thick in the air, the sight of fallen corpses strewn on the ground without recognizing either friend or foe, those images will forever etch a scar onto the mind of survivors, and they will forever carry the burden of war with them. Honestly, I dare not explain this matter further, as I myself am no expert at it. Anyway, how do we liberate ourselves from the stains of our past? Personally, I think that we just need to accept those events as a part of life. I believe that when someone accepts them and regards it as a contributing factor that molds them into becoming the person that they are today, then that is an act of growth. Furthermore, when you get into a predicament, you will rarely do it again, thus causing you to learn that every action has its consequences. In a way, this is a reminder that we are mere human beings, and naturally humans are flawed, but those flaws of ours are what makes us to become the best version of ourselves. If everyone is perfect, then the world will be monochrome and grey. Those flaws of ours are what makes the world to become a fascinating and a colorful place to live. Again, this is Sofea Khadejah, Binti Hasrul Nizal, signing off.